Hey guys, today I'm doing a care video for Rhacodactylus ciliatus, the crested gecko. Now the crested gecko is a nocturnal species found on the forested island of New Caledonia. It is an arboreal species and this should be represented by its enclosure. As you can see, I use converted plastic storage containers to house my animals. Conventionally, enclosures for these crested geckos are taller as opposed to wider. Ideally that's what you want, but for a budget enclosure such as these, as long as it's still got the height and plenty of room to climb, then it's going to be fine. Hides are not really necessary, as long as you've got lots of foliage, plastic plants, place for it to hide, bark, so it can feel secure. As you can see, I've got bamboo and cork bark tunnels. These have been baked in the oven to sterilise and hot glued into place to secure them. For this box in particular, I've used a soldering iron to make holes in the top, as you can see there, and I have used a drill to make holes in the side to install these vents. Now, this is important. It's important that you get good flow of air, as this species requires quite a high level of humidity. Around 60 to 80% should be maintained. Without good ventilation, you risk the accumulation of stagnant air, and this could encourage mold growth, which would be bad. I use paper towels on the bottom of the tank, but I found that it's just as easy to clean without paper towels, and you can see the poo just as easy, and the gecko and the crickets would just hide under there. When he gets a bit bigger, I'll be putting orchid bark in, which will maintain humidity a bit and is large enough not to cause impaction. Once a month, take everything out of the enclosure, give it a good clean with a reptile safe disinfectant, rinse it all off, and that's good. It's good enough for them. In many situations, room temperature is more than suitable for the species, so requiring little to no extra additional heating. Because my flat is cold, I supplement daytime heat with a heat mat, which I place underneath or at the back of the tank. Daytime temperatures should be around 22 to 26 degrees, and there should be a nighttime drop of 18 to 20 degrees. Normal day-night house temperatures should provide this, but if it doesn't quite meet the requirements, a heat mat will do the job. They can survive much lower temperatures, but it's really not necessary to expose them to such temperature extremes. As you can see, I don't use a basking light or any UV lighting. However, I know several keepers that do and several that don't. Some argue that they get UV light in the wild, so they provide it in their enclosures, and others argue that with them being nocturnal, they are not exposed to these UV rays. Personally, I would only use the UV lights if I had live plants in the enclosure, as they don't tend to do well without them. Also, a heat lamp is not really necessary, as the enclosure is warm enough without one. However, I have been told by experienced keepers that their lizards, they often see their lizards basking under the heat lamps. So, I think it's personal preference really. But with a plastic box like this, you want to be careful that it doesn't melt or warp the plastic. As with any sort of heating, you need to check first, make sure that the container is safe to use with the container you're using. If you do decide to use them, make sure the heat bulbs are low wattage and that any UV you use is no higher than 5%, otherwise it will burn any live plants you've got in there and potentially burn the lizard as well. In the wild, these geckos are omnivores and will eat a variety of insects and soft fruit. In captivity, a powdered crested gecko diet is available. There are a few brands. Repashy seems to be the favourite. I at the moment use this Komodo one. It's alright. It's got everything the gecko needs in it, including vitamin D3, so that stuff's good. You mix it with water into a paste and it should be fed daily to the lizards. I put it in typically in a bottle cap, just like that. I also recommend feeding them live food. They'll pretty much take any insect, crickets, roaches, hoppers. I use crickets myself. Make sure anything you feed them is gut loaded with fresh fruit and veg, keep them well hydrated, and I also feed them crested gecko diet to ensure that the lizard's getting everything it possibly can from its food. I tend to feed at least twice a week on live food in a sort of 2-day gecko diet, 1-day crickets, 2-day gecko diet cycle. I've been feeding the crickets in a box recently. I've taken the gecko out into a large container with the crickets so I can watch him eat them, because I've observed the crickets actually biting him a few times. This is very rare, it doesn't normally happen, but you know, just for his own safety, that's what I'm doing. And also I'd have to put mesh over the sides because they've been escaping. Right, handling. These geckos are very tame and well mannered as youngsters. They're typically very jumpy, but this one was hand-fed since birth, so he's got used to contact. Like other geckos, they will drop their tail if they're threatened or feel unsafe, but unlike other geckos, such as the Leos, they will not grow their tails back. But that doesn't hinder them in any way. Still perfectly healthy without their tails. I've heard somewhere that in the wild they thought that all crested geckos were tailless, as all wild specimens that they observed and caught did not have tails themselves. Here's Frank. Right here, my juvenile. I'm not sure what sex it is yet. It's too small to tell. But yeah, really tame, really nice lizards. Hope this helps. Really, hope this should be everything you need to know about crested geckos in 5 minutes. Thanks for watching. For more detailed videos on how to keep these guys, videos on mature lizards, breeding, and how to set up a live planted vivarium. Thanks for watching.